video is to give Angel Reese some love, but to really give Reebok a lot of credit because I'm sure most people, especially if you heavy in the sneaker, not I don't even want to say you had to be a sneakerhead, but if you just collected or bought a lot of sneakers in your past, and if you are of age where you actually was old enough to remember Iverson's question Reeboks or the answers, or actually remember when Shaq originally was with Reebok, you kind of know for a fact that it kind of, for both of them, it was like, I don't want to say they missed the moment, but for those two athletes to be as big in the culture as they was, like, let's be clear, Iverson had the commercial with the locks. It was fire commercial. I remember being a kid trying to practice doing that little crossover. But still, even with that being said, I could kind of sit here and say, like, I don't necessarily know if Reebok capitalized the moment when they had those two. And I like the way that they're rolling these out with Angel, because it's kind of like, and I'm sure, again, like I said, especially if you are a huge Angel Reese fan, you may be a little bit younger and don't remember none of the Shaq and Allen Iverson Reeboks or any of those things previously. In your mind is you probably only know Nike because, if you even seen the Netflix series they have, like, leading up to and ready to release the shoes or whatever the case may be, or Reebok trying to make their comeback, they've been out of the market, especially in the basketball space, for 15 years. So I'm sure if you in your 20s or even in your early 30s, you may not know nothing about Reebok, nothing at all. You may see older people with some Iversons and still don't have no real recollection of it. Or maybe even if you listen to, say, your first pair of Iversons, you may have seen been the Pharrell jumps with the ice cream jump that they did together, collaboration they did together. So I'm sure for a lot of people, you kind of didn't know what to look for or what to expect realistically, because it's kind of like it's almost new to everybody. Because at this point, like, Nike kind of have. I mean, listen, if we being honest, Nike kind of got the, especially basketball sneaker community, kind of like in the chokehold. If we just keeping it real, but to see them do this old school marketing with the trucks, because I'm listening to them. So I used to be a promoter back in the day, and when Howard Homecoming was Howard Homecoming, I remember renting out these trucks and sitting here like managing artists, and you sitting here or you throwing your party, and you got this truck going up and down Howard or Georgia Avenue, sitting here trying, and that truck for a smaller promoter, or if you're managing a smaller artist, it kind of get the eye of whatever big artist is getting booked in town, or their manager or their label may see it, and it kind of make people be like, oh dang, they kind of got some motion going on, or they were very aggressive with locking down their city and allowing people to know, like, hey, this is my city, I'm running the town, whatever the case may be. And it's just so funny that even when this dude in this video was like, oh yeah, Angel, you locking, you taking it over, because he old enough to remember, like, when you see these type of trucks and that type of guerrilla marketing, because I mean, of course, this is so removed from the online community. This is realistically what guerrilla marketing used to look like in the early or mid 2000s. We talking about, like, this could even be like 2006, 2010, 11, like in those mid 2000s, where people were still getting out, passing out flyers, having these type of trucks, and actually touching the people. And do think realistically, and that's why I'm paying very close attention to how Reebok handles this, is because, like, let's be clear, Angel Reese has the biggest personality probably in the league to be able to meet the people where they are and be able to help draw traffic to Reebok. But realistically, Reebok kind of got to be able to meet her energy, because realistically, if we keep it in a buck, you still you competing with the women, but you realistically competing with the men too when you talking about selling sneakers, because this is a unisex shoe. This doesn't have just like, okay, well, I only got to worry about women buying my shoe. No, I kind of have to be able to match that energy with everybody. So I got to kind of be able to go ahead, especially for Reebok, because you don't have a big male athlete. Your biggest athlete on Reebok right now is Angel Reese. So she's got to go up head to head, and Reebok is gonna have to go hit creatively wise, gonna have to go head to head up with Ant-Man, with Anthony Edwards and Adidas. Because let's be clear, like, and there's no shade to the women who are signed to Adidas, but they kind of not gonna be able to compete with Angel. So you're gonna have to go. She got to go head to head with Ant, and then even on the Nike side, with Nike, kind of course, it's Nike. Nike is almost and I do, even with this one, I'm bouncing ideas off, because even if you think about all of the female rappers that Angel is cool with, all of them kind of like already affiliated with Nike. Even with Glorilla, if you watched the All-Star Game yesterday, or if you've seen the new commercial for Adidas, they got Glorilla in the commercial, so they got Glorilla already kind of under contract. So I do even want to see how she can be able to still continuously tap into the culture, and maybe not be able to rely on some of her bigger female friends who are rappers, because a lot of them already, again, Glow is with Adidas. I believe Nike had a jump a couple months ago with Lotto. Meg, of course, got stuff with Nike. So I do kind of want to see how she can kind of like bounce that around and still be able to compete in that space. And I do believe it, even for the women, I believe Nike put the bar kind of high when it comes to Asia Wilson's Nike commercial. Like that commercial was so fire, so iconic, so culturally um engraved into the commercial. So I do think realistically, you still kind of got a lot of you got to kind of still battle, do a uphill battle up against that level of commercials. But it still make me be like, I was happy to see this. I was happy to see how old school aggressive they was with even just listening to some of Angel's press conference stuff and see how she was saying she looking forward to going to Australia because Australia Reebok is big in Australia. This, to see her even get to do some of those sneaker tours and be able to touch some of these other people. The only thing I will hope that Nike really don't hold up to this 2026 release date, because you got people excited right now. People are excited, especially about the pink ones. I love those pink ones. They super fire. They pop off and they kind of go hand in hand with how bright and how big her personality is. And even just her almost looking like she was literally ready to dunk yesterday in the All-Star game with those sneakers on. I do think realistically all of that helps to continue to keep that momentum constantly growing and feeding her fan base. But this right here, just her being actually out, because this will remind me of like a rapper. This is not something that basketball, like you don't see this with basketball players, or maybe I just personally haven't never seen it with basketball players, but I remember like rappers getting out, you having these same trucks, you passing out your CD, or I'm about to be at this club tonight, or whatever. Like that's that style of marketing that you don't see because so many people are used to just sitting on the internet and doing internet stuff and not really actually getting out, touching the people and making the people feel like you are one of them. So to actually watch this process, I'm not gonna lie, I do want to give a round of applause to Reebok because I didn't know what to expect. And you still, I mean, of course, you still the goal is to still continuously build on that brand and build on that return and help Angel Reese build on her brand and then make that sneaker like a household sneaker. Because realistically, Reebok still do have a lot of competitive space that they kind of got. You got a lot of ground to touch realistically, and you kind of battling a lot of people because you still got Nike. Let's be clear, Nike. If you watch even the women's game, like you still got the Devin Bookers, you still got the Sabrinas, you still got the Jai, you got the Asians. Like, and that's just right off the top of my head. I ain't even talking about Giannis and Paul George and all them other people. I'm talking about like the ones that I seen a conscious effort from Nike over the weekend, really just sitting here like Devin Booker. Like I felt like every woman either had on an Asia Wilson sneaker or they had on a Devin Booker joint. So realistically, to see Nike kind of like, yeah, we're gonna be in your face with that. I do want to see how Reebok kind of continuously grows this brand and how creative they can get when it comes to pushing Angel and even with commercial, because I do think even again, because I lived in that era where Reebok kind of lost, even especially with Shaq. Like you had Shaq and Nike had Penny, and you lost to Penny. So I do want to see if Reebok can find cooler ways where you don't lose again. Because let's be clear, Shaq was that Orlando team was Shaq's team. So for Penny to kind of come up under like supposed to be little bro, and then him and little Penny came and they kind of was like the big dogs and realistically even chased Shaq out of Orlando. I do want to see how can you sit here and build that momentum, and even for Iverson still to be as iconic as he is and how legendary he is in the culture. I don't necessarily know if the shoes was as impactful and to kind of just say he only had one commercial that like if I'm comparing because you're talking about that's 96, if I'm still going off the top, like I don't necessarily know if that one commercial could compete still. Again, we bring back Penny Hardaway with the little Penny commercial. So I do want to sit here and see how Reebok strategizes on making a huge impact, just not in the sneaker culture, but even in basketball culture and also in black culture. So again, shout outs to Reebok. I'm hats off to them. I love the way that they kept their foot on the gas and made Angel Reese name and body and shoe present in Indiana. And of course, I mean, if you watch the WNBA, then you kind of already know the backstory with Indiana. So for them to be this aggressive in Indiana, that to me, I like that. Walk in your trap.